Good afternoon, folks. So, just back with another video. I'm just going to do my weekly outlook for this week. Kind of just talk through the sort of areas I'm paying attention to and what I would like to see for price action this week. So, just starting at the monthly chart, we can kind of see from where we are and what occurred last week. The sort of my analysis from last week's weekly outlook was pretty good, and we did fill April's wick. But now we've sort of found some sort of resistance there, and we've pulled down. So we're only 2 weeks into the month. We still have another 2 to go. We're quite bullish. So just from looking at the monthly chart, we're basically reacting at this monthly support, which is where April did struggle. But we are above resistance on the monthly. So if I go to the weekly, you can see that we're above weekly resistance. Again, not really giving me much more information than that, and that of course we are reacting at the monthly support. I mean, if I just sort of annotate here, this is sort of what I'm looking at. This is the area in which price is failing to close above. However, we are within the zone, so when price is anywhere within here, we can react and we can go to the downside. Reason being is we clearly reacted at April, then we had the following month of May, and we went to the downside off of the back of that rejection of the support on the monthly to the zone that is left. But realistically, I don't see us really continuing further down unless it's maybe fundamentally driven. But upside is what I'm still looking for. And although we did have a pullback on the daily and stuff, that's all that could be. You know, we've had 2 bearish daily closes, which I'll get to in a moment, which has formed a resistance, but it could just be a pullback or further continuation. So this is the sort of area I'm looking at in the monthly. Essentially, what I would like price to do is I want daily candles to be closing above this support. If we can have daily candles closing above, and then if we can respect that and hold support above this level, then I believe we have a very good chance of tapping into 174. Because the way I'm looking at this is now the zone that we are playing within. If we can remain within that zone and hold support above the support zone within the zone, there's a good chance that we can then continue and potentially test the top end of the range. So that's what I'm looking at, just solely based on the monthly. If I do just drop to the weekly chart, again at a resistance, I'll just drop to the daily. So this is where we are on the daily. We can see that we closed above resistance, but we didn't close above the resistance zone. So again, what I would prefer is to see daily candles closing above. We can then hold support if we come back in, and then we can then continue to the upside. But all this is a resistance. In order for me to see downside, similar to last week, you know, what I would need to see is a change in structure on the daily. So I would need to see maybe another, let me just actually change that color. Say for example, a bearish day, and then the next day we have a bullish day, and then the following day we have a bearish day closing below the support. That would be, to me, a change in structure to the upside, or sorry, a change in structure down to the downside. And then we could potentially be looking for pullbacks in the support to then hold as lower resistance, and we would then target the target. Because at the moment, what I'm seeing is we're just continuing up. So all this could be is just a pullback, right? We don't essentially we don't know where this support's going to form. You know, this support could form here, it might form down here. there is a possibility that we may have consecutive bearish days and then we find the support. You know, ultimately looking at the daily, the sort of main sort of areas I would be paying attention to is this zone here. There also is some 4-hour levels within here, which I will get to in a moment, which I would expect to hold, but ultimately I don't really want to see price closing below this this resistance zone. I want price to form a higher support above, or if price wants to come down a little bit deeper and then form a support, and we can continue back up and we can look to test the 168, the target, as in that would then be the pullback, the target, the triangle, continuation is further. So that is the daily. I mean, I think if we look at this, area on the way, like all these wick rejections, and we look at this here, you know, we have had reaction in here based off of what we can see left. So ultimately I want to see that level respected. If we do come back, I would expect to see some form of reaction here, but any sort of bullish daily close is going to be a good sign that, right, that might be the pullback phase finished, and we can then look to potentially buy that back up. But again, it all depends on how the daily candles close, and you know, just because we have one bullish daily candle that forms a support doesn't mean that we're going to continue up. But ultimately, if a daily candle does form a support, we want to see that support respected. We have to see that support respected. If it's not respected, then there's every chance that that is just a potential pause in the market for further downside, because we obviously are bearish at the minute. So we could have a bearish day, then we could have a bullish support. Oh, that's the wrong color. We could have a bullish day, and then you think, oh, we have found their support, this is where we're going to now do this. But that could just be a pause in the market or further downside. So it's all going to depend on if this support, wherever it forms, can be respected, and depending on the sort of size of the candle and how that candle forms. If it's an engulfing candle, it's obviously going to give you more confidence that we will continue to the upside. But again, we don't really know if that's going to happen. However, based off of the sort of overall bullish trend, that's what I would be expecting, continued upside. So although we're bearish, I'm still very much bullish. That all I'm seeing is this is a potential pullback to find a higher support for us to then continue higher, and ultimately the higher support is, the more confidence I would have in continued upside. I don't want to see such a deep retracement, but I am paying attention to sort of the 164 area in a sense. If I just drop to the 4-hour, what I had drawn up last week was I had this support zone and this resistance zone across the board, and let me just draw this. I had this resistance zone and I had this support zone, and I was looking at these when price was on its way up, which was here. This was the most recent stuff that we had left. So this is what I was paying attention to, and we actually did have a retracement back into this support, as we can see with this bearish candle. We pulled back into this resistance zone, which formed a support here. We tapped into that, and that's then where we took off, and we tapped into the 168. So because this is now the most recent, you know, there's really no need for me to sort of pay attention to this, because this has formed this, and this is what is most recent. Okay, so if I go to the 4 hour, I can see that this is basically going to be sort of my 4 hour support zone. I would be drawing this from here up. Okay. Now I can actually narrow this. I can actually make this a little bit more accurate based on the 1 hour. Okay. So as we can see here, prices failed to close below this support. Let me just get my here, which is here. Okay. Now you could also say you have a little support in here, so which is where we did obviously pull back into as well. But if we are looking for this potentially maybe the area where price is going to then continue up from. I don't know. Okay. But this support is based off of the 4 hour support that we had this way, right? So I know that I want this to be respected, okay? Because if I just go to the 4 hour again, just to kind of show you, because what I wanted to happen on the upside was I wanted price to close above. Let me just actually draw this again. Let me see. So this resistance zone, right? I wanted price to close above it, right? And I wanted a support to hold above it, because if we pull back down and close below on the way up, this could act as resistance again, because this is where it's acted before, and that could then happen, a lower resistance. Okay, so if we're above the resistance, then there's no way that that resistance can then act as a potential lower resistance. Okay, so sort of the same thing where we are now. You know, if price pushes up, right, say like we open tomorrow bullish, any sort of retracement back, I want to see this support respected, okay, for us to then do this. Okay, if we close below, there's every chance that again this can then do that. So if we open bullish, I would be looking for any sort of pullbacks into this. Just say, for example, say Asian session is bullish, you maybe pull back at London, and then London open we push, or we maybe pull back London and then New York is where we get the continuation. But ultimately, if say for example we open bearish and we're trading below, you know, I'm going to be waiting for structure to form. So there's every chance that because we're at a previous structure zone, that we can hold support and we can go this way. If we go this way and end the day bullish, what's that going to mean? Well, that's going to mean that we have a daily support. So on the daily time frame, we're going to have a higher support, which is what we want, right? Then going into Tuesday, I want to see that support respected. So if say for example we get a bullish daily candle which closes like this tomorrow, I want to see this support respected. So price can pull down if it wants, as far as it wants, but as long as this support is respected, and just say for example we maybe end with a daily candle, which, let me just draw this for example. Potentially if we get a pullback, we could then have a daily candle which closes like that, right? And then we would have a confirmed support. So I know that this support has been respected on Tuesday. I would be confident to say that there's a good chance that we will remain above that, okay, for the remainder of the sessions or the week. But again, we could have a couple of days of form of support, confirm a support, and then we just go bearish. We don't know, but this is what I want to be seeing, you know, because if we get one daily candle close, it doesn't, like it says, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're just going to go straight to the upside, because if we do break the support, then because we have broken the support, then there's a higher chance that we can then continue down because we have failed to hold the support. Okay, so it really wouldn't be a good sign to me if we break a support on a daily time frame. Okay, so that is what I would be looking for on that. So if I just go to the 1 hour, or the 1 hour, So because we are at this sort of support level, which is formed based off of the 4-hour time frame, what I'm going to be looking for is any pullbacks into this zone, higher supports forming, and ban that. If we pull back and tap into the support but hold the support and don't actually breach the support, again, any sort of double bottoms, or if you that's what you want to call it, just supports holding there, candles failing to break down, signs of potential upside, I would be buying that as well. So that's what I'd be looking for going into next week. Like, ultimately, we don't have any sort of structure on the daily, right? We go to the daily, we don't have any sort of structure really. Okay, we don't know if this is going to keep continuing down. We don't know if it's going to continue up. Ultimately, for us to see price continuing up on this time frame, we first need to have, well, what I want to see is a daily candle forming a support, right? Again, on the 4-hour, we don't really have any sort of structure. We're sort of in a bearish leg down. We have formed a support. However, look at that candle. It's more like an indecision candle. It's a very weak support, but it is a support. So if we can respect this level come tomorrow, then that would be a good sign. Ultimately, what I want to see is some form of structure, support formed. Then I want to see that held, and then I can then buy that back up. You know, I'm not really looking for sales. I'm only looking for buys. But of course, you may get sales during the session because I trade London session. But the better opportunity I feel would come if we get a strong support, and this could just be a pullback to continue higher. That's sort of my outlook for this week. If I just bring on all my drawings, this is sort of what I have at the moment. So as you can see, this is my monthly support zone, my monthly resistance zone, and we're sort of within that. I do believe if we can have daily candles holding support above here, we can go up to 174. I think I said earlier 178, but it's 174, sorry. So that is sort of what I'm looking at. If I just map on my 4 hours, this is kind of just supports and resistances based off of the 4-hour time frame, which is what you can see on the hourly. So again, these are just areas I would be paying attention to on the way up if we're buying into these. But ultimately, you know, what I'm looking for is price to push away, pull back in, respect this support, form a higher support, and we can then look to buy that. But yeah, that's sort of my weekly outlook based on that. And yeah, just any other levels I'm sort of paying attention to. We do have a couple of like higher time frame levels on the way down. So if price does open up bearish, we might find that these weekly levels, daily levels, previous 4-hour levels, could act as areas where price might struggle to continue down from, and that is where we might find the support. So although this is sort of like the most recent areas that we have here, these might not be the areas where price holds its support. It might come a little bit deeper, but if I just go to my higher time frames, I really wouldn't be wanting price to be coming any deeper than sort of 163, 200 and things like that. I did have a wee note here, higher support formed above 167,465. Yeah, but that's what that came in last week, so it did. So that's sort of not really irrelevant for me at the moment. But yeah, it's I'm just sort of seeing this as a pullback, really. Like, you know, it doesn't really make much sense to sell, but that's just sort of my outlook and my thoughts. So I'll get this uploaded, but I appreciate you taking the time to watch, and hopefully we can have a lot of opportunities during the week. And I believe there probably is some news as well coming this week, so that would be something to pay attention to as well, and see how that can affect the markets.